Hi, in these guided writing lessons I will talk you through how to write answers for the IELTS writing section. We will go through 3 types of academic task 1, 3 question types for task 2 and the general task 1. Welcome to guided writing lesson number 1. Here I will guide you through describing a chart or graph for task 1 of the academic IELTS. Let's remind ourselves of what's really important to include in your chart description in order to get a good score. In task achievement, first of all, you need to write at least 150 words. Although you won't be penalised for writing less, it is a good idea to write that many so that your answer does include the information necessary and to show the examiner you can write a substantial piece of writing in the set time. You won't be penalised for writing too many words. However, I recommend to stay as close as possible to the word limit so that you don't include too much detail and you limit the amount of mistakes you make. For a good score in task achievement, you need to include a clear overview of the main trends and include main features and to support them, include some data from the chart. You shouldn't include or write about all the features in detail as that will lower your score. When it comes to cohesion and coherence, it's important that your writing is logically written, that it progresses from one idea to the next rather than all over the place. You should use some linking and signpost words such as firstly, in general, however, and some cohesive devices such as replacing words with pronouns. Here's an example. The number of women dropped from 20 to 14,000 and then it grew again. I have replaced number of women with it and I've highlighted this in blue. This is a good example of referencing. Lexical resource. Here the examiner is looking for a good range of relevant vocabulary and you need to use words to describe trends and you must make sure that you use them accurately. You don't need to learn all the words which mean to go up, for example. Just learn a couple of expressions for each trend. You also could include some collocations. Your spelling should be accurate, but even for a 7 you can make occasional mistakes. When it comes to grammar, the examiners are looking for a good range of grammatical structures. That means they want to see some longer sentences, including subordinate clauses. You also need to be accurate and be aware of punctuation. In this guided lesson, we're going to write an answer to a task 1 chart description. You can find this chart in the materials section of this lesson along with the model answer. But before you look, let's remind ourselves of the stages on how best to write your chart description. First of all, we need to take a minute to look at the task, and in that minute we need to read the task carefully, including the chart or the graph data. We need to work out what our overview is going to be and what are the main features. After, we need to take a minute to write a short introduction. Then we can take 3 minutes to write an overview. Then we come to writing the main body, so we need to take approximately 13 minutes to do that. And finally, we can write a short conclusion. The very last thing you should do always is to check your writing. First of all, let's look at the chart. You can look at the chart either here on the screen or you can use the materials which you can download on this lesson. It shows the total minutes of telephone calls in the UK in different categories and years. Make sure you underline the most important parts to include what, where and when and the different categories. Just underline or circle things at this stage. You will write in the next stage. I've done this in red. Now we have to look at what the overview could be. Again, I suggest you hold the page or task away from you so that you can see the big picture and the main trends. I've highlighted this in green. Here you can clearly see a few things. First, that fixed lines are always higher than mobile phone calls. And secondly, we can see that mobile calls have been increasing rapidly over the years. And as you can see in green, I've highlighted those trends. I haven't actually written anything yet, apart from the word gaps to highlight that the gap between the three different categories of phone calls has decreased. Now we need to choose and circle some main features, which I have highlighted in blue here. We are going to include these features and data in our answer. Again, don't write any data yet, just circle it. Your main features should support what you've said in the overview. So in this case, we need to include the increase of mobile phone calls from the beginning to the end of the period, the differences between fixed line and mobile phone calls, and the differences between the two types of fixed line calls. Now we can go on to write our introduction. You should write a short introduction, and you must remember to include the three things: what the graph shows, where it is, and when it is. If you can, you should reformulate or paraphrase the question or the description. But if you find that too difficult, then copy it, but make sure that you do write 150 words after it so that you still have the minimum word count. We have some ideas on how to reformulate or paraphrase something. The easiest way to paraphrase something is to use synonyms, which are words which mean the same, so you keep the original meaning of the sentence but have used different words. Here, for example, we can use present instead of show. Total number we replace with duration. Categories, we've used types. You can also add words or use different word order, but be careful not to change the grammar of the sentence. Here I've only added the word bar. I've only made small changes, but it would be enough that the examiner would include it in your word count. Okay, now we're going to write an overview. It is very important to write a clear overview in order to get a score of 5 or more. You should not include any numbers or data in the overview. Start your overview with a linking word such as overall or in general. I suggest you write your overview at the beginning of your answer so that you don't forget to include it. However, of course, you can put it at the end as a conclusion. I've chosen what I think are the main trends so that those trends stand out. If you hold the page away from you, you can see these trends are very obvious. We've already chosen them, so we know what we're going to write. Here is my overview. Don't forget, this is just one way to write it. Overall, minutes spent calling from landlines, both locally and internationally, exceeded mobile phone calls throughout the time period. Minutes for fixed line international and mobile calls increased constantly over the years. However, those for landline local increased before decreasing. Now we're going to write the main body. You have to include the main features which you circled or chose in the planning stage. You need to support those with data and numbers from the chart. You also need to think about the structure of your writing, as it's important that it is well organised and progresses clearly in order to get a good score. It doesn't matter how you organise it, it is just important that it is well organised and written logically. You need to use appropriate vocabulary and have a good range of grammatical structures. This all comes with practice, and the vocabulary and grammar does depend a lot on your English level. Here's my main body. I've started writing about mobile phone minutes, adding data, which I've highlighted in green, and a range of vocabulary to describe trends, which I've highlighted in orange. And I've used cohesive devices, such as linking words and referencing, in blue. All I've done here really is to talk about the main trends which I chose in the preparation stage and added data from the chart to support them. I'll give you a little bit of time to read through the answer. Okay, if you need more time, just press pause, but you will have a chance to read the model answer at the end. If you can and you have time, then you can write a short conclusion to finish off your writing neatly. It is really a rephrased overview. It doesn't have to be anything original or new that you haven't written about before. Here I've written, in conclusion, the 3 types of phone calls have all shown change and the gap between them has narrowed. In the real test, you should take a minute to check your writing. Check for spelling mistakes, legibility, which means to make sure that your handwriting is clear if you are doing the paper-based test, and punctuation. If you've added anything after, make sure that it's easy to find. Okay, so here's the whole sample answer. This answer would get a 9. However, please remember that this is just one way of many to answer this question. To reiterate, you can see the clear introduction where we have included what, where and when is in pink. You have a very clear overview, which we have started by using the word overall, so the examiner can clearly pinpoint your overview. And then we have talked about the main trends, and you can see that they are backed up and supported by data from the chart, which is in green. I've used a range of vocabulary, which is in red or orange. So if you want a bit of time to read this, then just press pause on this video. Now you can practice alone using the tasks in your workbook and comparing your answers to the model answers. Or, if you prefer, you can upload your answers to me for detailed feedback. Please see our website for more details. After this, you can do more guided lessons in the following videos.